I used to think the woods were peaceful, quiet, calming, even romantic in their own rugged way. But after what happened, I can't even look at a campfire without feeling my skin crawl. It started with something small. Tom, my husband, had always had the occasional bout of sleepwalking. Nothing dangerous, just harmless wandering to the bathroom or mumbling nonsense in bed. So when he started walking toward the campfire at night, I figured it was just one of those things. But it happened every night, always the same. Around 2 a.m., like clockwork, I'd wake up to find him standing at the edge of the fire, swaying slightly, his face blank, eyes half-lidded, and always so close that the heat should have burned him. In the morning, his clothes reeked of smoke, and his fingertips were gray with ash. I asked him about it. He didn't remember any of it, except for one thing. He said he had these strange dreams about a figure in the flames. He'd whisper about the one in the fire, or the watcher. His voice would go flat, distant, like he was remembering something from a past life. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was just sleep talking. But the way he said it didn't feel like dreaming. Then one night, I followed him. He rose just like always, slow, quiet, like something was pulling him up by invisible strings. I stayed a few feet behind, trying not to make a sound. He moved past the fire this time, deeper into the woods. That was the first time I noticed it. The trees ahead were different, charred, blackened, as if a wildfire had swept through years ago. But there was no record of one. The air got heavy, acrid, and I could smell smoke that wasn't coming from our campfire anymore. Tom stopped at a patch of scorched ground and knelt. He started digging, bare hands, clawing into the dirt like something was buried there he needed to find. I was just about to stop him when I saw what he pulled up. A skull. Not a deer or bear. Human. Blackened like it had been through fire, the eye sockets hollow and accusing. I gasped, and Tom slowly turned toward me. His eyes were wide now, fully awake, but not right. There was something else in them, something watching me through him. We didn't talk about it the next day. I tried. God, I tried. But every time I brought it up, Tom would just go quiet, staring off toward the tree line like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. And then the fire started behaving strangely. When Tom walked toward it at night, it flared. No, reacted, like it knew he was coming. The flames stretched taller, unnaturally so, and the shadows they cast began to look human. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But one night I watched them, these tall, flickering silhouettes, move around the fire like they were dancing. I told myself it was tricks of light, exhaustion, paranoia, until one of them looked directly at me. That same night, I woke up to find Tom standing over me. His hands were covered in ash, streaks running down his arms. He was whispering, but not to me. "It wants us to stay," he said, again and again, like a broken record. I shoved him, screamed his name, but he just kept whispering. And when I finally got him to lie down, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My arms. There were burns on them, angry red handprints, like someone had grabbed me in my sleep. But Tom had been sleepwalking. He couldn't have done it, at least not on his own. The next night, I tried to put the fire out. I dumped the water bucket on it. Nothing. I buried the embers in dirt. Still it burned. And when Tom approached, the flames leapt so high they licked the tops of the trees. And then, the shadows stepped out. I don't even know how to explain it. They weren't just shapes anymore. They moved. They reached for Tom, circled around him, and one of them turned its head toward me and smiled, though it didn't have a mouth. Just a twisted smear where a face should be. I ran. I ran back to the tent and locked myself inside like that could do anything. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at the zipper, waiting for it to move. Morning came. The fire was still burning. Tom was gone. I found him in the same clearing as before, kneeling beside the skull like it was an altar. He didn't respond when I touched his shoulder, just whispered. We woke it up. We belong to it now. I dragged him back to the car. I didn't even pack. I just drove. That was 3 weeks ago. The burns on my arms haven't healed. They itch at night, like fingers are still there gripping me. Tom doesn't speak much anymore. He just stares at the fire escape outside our apartment. Sometimes I catch him standing at the window in the dark, whispering to something I can't see. The fire won't go out. And I'm starting to think, neither will they. I don't know what made us choose that lake. We just wanted to get away for a weekend, somewhere remote, somewhere off the grid. No cell service, no classes, just 5 college friends, a few tents, and the promise of peace. The lake wasn't on any map. We found it through some obscure hiking forum. People talked about how quiet it was, how untouched. That should have been our first warning. The first night was uneventful. We drank, told dumb stories, and passed out under a mess of stars. But sometime in the early hours, I woke up to the sound of water, gentle ripples, like something wading through the lake. That's when I saw Sarah. She was standing at the edge of the water, barefoot, her nightshirt clinging to her in the breeze. At first, I thought she was awake, just taking in the view. But she didn't move. She didn't even blink. I called her name. Nothing. Then I noticed the reflection. It was wrong. While Sarah stood still, her reflection was shifting, tilting its head from side to side like it was studying her. Then it smiled. I thought I was just seeing things. Lack of sleep, maybe. I got up to bring her back. But the second I touched her arm, she snapped, screamed like a cornered animal, and shoved me so hard I hit the ground. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, like she wasn't even there. The next day, she didn't remember a thing. We all laughed it off. Sleepwalking, right? Weird, sure, but not supernatural. Not yet. The second night, she did it again. Same time, same spot. This time we all saw it. Tom, Jenna, Marcus, and me. We approached carefully, whispering her name. But when Marcus tried to pull her back, she turned on him. Bit his hand, hard enough to draw blood. She didn't even flinch. That's when the reflection moved again. This time it lifted its arm, and we all saw it beckoning Sarah to come in. And then the lake began to ripple. Slow at first, then violent, like something was coming up. We grabbed her, kicking and screaming, and just before we pulled her back, I swear I saw it. Hands, pale, slimy things made of mud and reeds, rising from the water, wrapping around her ankles. They didn't want to let go. We ran back to the campsite, too shaken to speak. But the next morning, something was different. The shoreline was closer. Visibly closer. It had crept toward our tents like the lake itself had moved in the night. And then Jenna screamed. She was looking into a puddle outside her tent, rain from the night before. Sarah's reflection was in it. Only Sarah wasn't near it. She was still asleep in her tent. And the reflection? It smiled again, just like in the lake. That's when the footprints started. Each night, we'd hear wet slapping sounds, like bare feet dragging across the dirt. In the morning, there were prints, circling the tents, pacing around the fire pit, always stopping in front of Sarah's tent before disappearing toward the lake. And the water kept creeping closer. Sarah's condition got worse. Her skin started to feel cold and clammy, like she'd just stepped out of a bathtub. She was pale, her eyes sunken, and one morning she coughed up thick, black water. No one said anything, but we all saw it. We tried to leave, packed everything in silence, and started hiking back. But the woods didn't feel right anymore. We walked for hours, but always ended up back at the lake. It was like we were stuck inside some twisted loop. And each time we returned, the water was closer. That night was the worst. I woke up to the sound of splashing. When I looked outside, I saw Sarah walking straight into the lake, arms outstretched. We all ran after her, yelling, slipping on the mud. The water was waist high when we caught her, but she didn't fight. She just looked at us with this calm, eerie smile. Behind her, her reflection was fully submerged, but its eyes glowed faintly under the water. We dragged her back. She collapsed in the dirt, coughing up more black water, gasping like she'd been drowning for hours. I wrapped her in blankets, but her skin was ice cold, her pulse barely there. And then she whispered, "It's already inside." None of us slept that night. The fire wouldn't stay lit. Shadows circled us, and we heard laughter, low, gurgling, wet. In the morning, the lake touched the edge of the camp. We left everything behind, ran until we hit a road, hitchhiked, filthy, shaking, broken. That was 2 weeks ago. Sarah hasn't been the same since. She doesn't sleep much. When she does, she mumbles in a language none of us understand. She avoids mirrors, puddles, even polished glass, and every now and then, she still coughs up that water. I saw a puddle in the parking lot yesterday. Just a little one. Rainwater. But in it, I saw her smiling back at me, and she winked. We thought camping would bring us closer together. My wife Laura and I had been fighting for weeks, stupid stuff mostly, and our son Ethan, 15, had become more withdrawn than usual. I figured a weekend in the woods might help us reset. No screens, no stress, just trees, stars, and each other. We picked a quiet national park that didn't get much traffic. The ranger at the station even joked that most people avoided this part of the forest. Said it was too quiet. We should have listened. The first night was uneventful, at least until around 2 a.m., when I heard rustling outside the tent. I peeked through the flap and saw Ethan walking barefoot toward the trees. He moved slowly but deliberately, like he knew exactly where he was going. I called out. Nothing. Laura woke up panicked. We chased after him and found him maybe 100 feet from the campsite, standing motionless, staring at the trees like he was waiting for something. His eyes were open, but he didn't respond to us. Didn't speak, didn't blink. Just stood there. When I touched his arm, he flinched and collapsed into my chest like a rag doll. We carried him back to the tent, confused and shaken. The next morning, Ethan didn't say a word. Just sat there staring off into the woods, like he was listening to something we couldn't hear. That night, we zipped the tent closed, tucked him into his sleeping bag, and took turns staying awake. But somehow, he got out. I woke to find the tent flap open, claw-like tears in the canvas, 4 long, deep gouges. I don't know how he got past us. We followed the trail again. This time we found him in a small clearing surrounded by dense trees. But he wasn't alone. They stood just beyond the tree line, tall, narrow silhouettes, unmoving, watching. I swear there were at least 6 of them. We tried to get closer, but the second we stepped into the clearing, they were gone. Just like that. No sound, no movement. Vanished. Ethan stood in the center, staring straight up at the stars. We had to physically drag him away. By the 3rd night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat up with a flashlight, clutching the hatchet we brought for firewood. But sometime after midnight, I must have dozed off. When I woke up, he was gone again. We followed his trail deeper than we ever had before, stumbling through roots and thorns until we came across something none of us expected. An old, rotting cabin. It looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Boards falling apart, roof partially collapsed, moss swallowing every surface. The door creaked open on its own when I reached for it. Inside were photos, dozens of them, black and white, yellowing at the edges, pinned to every wall. All of them showed campers, families, kids, hikers, posed in that same clearing, same tree line, same look in their eyes. Blank, empty. Ethan's face wasn't in any of them. But I swear I recognized the faces of people I'd seen on old missing persons posters growing up. Ethan stood in the middle of the room, swaying slightly. Laura screamed. I turned, but he was gone again. Just disappeared into the dark behind the cabin. We searched for hours, but never found him. When we returned to the campsite, the fire was still burning, even though no one had touched it in hours. And then we heard it. His voice, from deep in the forest. Mom, Dad, come find me. I'm still here. Don't leave me. Laura collapsed in tears. I didn't know what to believe anymore. The next day we went back to the cabin, thinking maybe, just maybe, he'd returned. What we found made my blood run cold. Ethan's sleeping bag was there, lying on the floor in one corner. It was covered in pine needles and dirt, but that wasn't the worst part. It smelled like death, like something had been rotting inside it for years. But it was his bag. The same pattern, same frayed zipper, same initials we stitched into the side. How long had it been there? And then I noticed something else. In the dust covering the floorboards, there were small footprints. Wet, muddy, circling the bag. They stopped in the middle of the room, where the boards were darker, soaked. That night, we heard him again. Please, come to me. I'm cold. Laura wanted to follow the voice, but I held her back. We stayed up, clutching each other, listening as his cries grew more distant, more desperate, until they turned into something else. Laughter, low, raspy, mocking. We left at dawn. We reported it to the rangers. They searched. Found nothing. And Ethan is still missing. But sometimes, late at night, I hear his voice in the wind outside our bedroom window. Still begging. Still cold. Still waiting.